I love how you avoid saying racist. Okay.
No, oh my God, I actually didn't think that even. What? Stop. Don't put things into my mouth.
I always dance around
do.
it too, and it's fear, and it's fear, and it's fear of making mistakes and fear of misunderstandings. But really, all racism is based in fear. The fact that it's not in your face here doesn't make it that different, in my opinion.
When you search for a place to live in Japan, and even in Tokyo now, there are many, many places and owners that specifically say no foreigners. Some of them say no foreigners, but what they mean by that is specifically no Chinese people, for example. So it is very, very...
All of which is, by the way, illegal in Japan too. It's just that nobody enforces that. It's illegal for them to say no foreigners. The anti-discrimination laws do exist in Japan. It's just that nobody cares. If the property is too old, they're not really built to last in Japan, so not very durable materials, which deteriorates over time, especially with Japan having as many typhoons and earthquakes, big and small, as it does. When you run a structural inspection, you might find that, yes, the house costs $10,000, but you need to pay another $80,000 to fix the tilting and the land sediment issues around the foundation. The roof might need to be replaced for 30, 40, 50,000 bucks, whatever the case may be. Yes, the purchase price is very low. It is possible to buy a very, very cheap property, but you really need to think carefully about what and how you're going to be doing with it once that purchase is done.
I mean, some of these people are literally anti-foreign. I mean, they're just very open about it. And the sentence that they wrote there, some of them, I mean, I was just shocked, because also very sad, because I am a foreigner, obviously, and I love Japan. Yeah, it's sad to see. I don't know. I found that it literally hurt me. It just makes me more sad, because I'm like, oh, so I'm not welcome here. Back to the Kotodama Podcast. So the guest I have with me here today is Ziv Nakajima-Magen. He is the co-founder and the partner of a real estate consultancy in Japan, and also the co-founder and partner of another company that is basically helping foreigners to relocate to Japan and also invest into Japan in all different kinds of investments. And so I want to welcome you. Thank you so much for being my guest, Ziv.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yes, I'm so excited. I mean, we talked about this. I talked to you about wanting to have a podcast, and now you're here, and I'm so grateful, and I'm so happy. You live actually in Fukuoka.
Yes, best city in the world.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I used to live in Fukuoka, as maybe my viewers
I'm sorry,
know.
I'm really biased. I shouldn't say that, but it's the best city that I've ever lived in personally.
No, I love that. It's very true. It's very easy to live in. I also love Fukuoka. So basically my first question to you would be, what drew you to basically real estate in Japan or real estate in Fukuoka? How did that come into your life?
It was kind of a default for me when we started. I mean, for various personal reasons, I wanted to invest financially and get a financial foothold in Japan. And the only thing I knew about investment at the time, which is about 14 years ago now, was real estate, because I had a bit of real estate in Australia where I was living at the time. And it just seemed like the most logical choice. So my wife and partner and I bought a few investment properties for ourselves, and just going through the motions, we realized that just because of Japan being Japan with the cultural and language differences, there could be a lot of people that could use a bit of help with that. So we started providing the same service for other people.
Amazing. And do you feel, I mean, that's been like how many years now? It's been a long time for you, right?
14 years with this company. The second company, Nippon Bridge, was set up about 3.5 years ago.
Amazing. And is there a reason why it's Fukuoka for you?
When we started with the real estate investment, Fukuoka, we did a bit of research, and Fukuoka was a kind of underlying kind of diamond in the rough at that point. Now it's kind of famous and prices have gone up. But at the time, again, 14 years ago, it was where we thought we'd find the best deals at the time. And due to a bunch of stuff, I mean, average salaries and population growth and property price versus rental yields and so forth. So all of that just brought us to Fukuoka for our first few investments. And just by the nature of doing business here, we had to come here. At the time, we were still living in Australia, at least for the first year. So we were coming here on a fairly regular basis to meet with agents and look at properties and do business. And we just fell in love with the city. So these days, it's still a very viable investment destination, but not nearly as cheap and attractive as it was back then. But we just love it here, so we stayed.
Yeah, I can also attest to that because I used to live in Fukuoka 12 years ago. And so it has gotten more expensive. I mean, I don't know much about real estate, but in general, it's just the prices have gone up, and I can imagine only. I also think the city has grown in population, maybe. Am I right there? Or?
Yeah, population, infrastructures. The mayor, who's been in place for quite some time now, has done a really good job in positioning it as a kind of white-collar professional services hub, and has done a pretty good job. I mean, it's still not Tokyo, but done a pretty good job in positioning it as a kind of a startup hub. So it's grown in infrastructures and in the range of people that come here. It's become really familiar to Southeast Asians now. So Singapore, Korea, Taiwan, there's a lot of them coming here on a regular basis. So becoming quite the cosmopolitan little city.
Yeah, it's so true what you said with the startup hub. It's very surprising. I mean, for me, it was very surprising because when you think about startups, obviously the first thing that comes to your mind are the biggest cities, right? I mean, I don't know, like New York, London, Tokyo, but then no, actually Fukuoka has like such a close-knit community, I feel like, of founders. I mean, that's where I kind of met you guys and some other people as well who are just founders and people who are doing their own thing, and they're based in Fukuoka, and it's like a group of I would say foreigners and also Japanese people who speak English, and it's like a close-knit community. It's very Yeah,
the expat community is pretty close here. I mean, even if you're not, personally acquainted with people, you've heard about them, or, oh, that guy, they said he's going to be here. That woman said she's going to be there. But I think it's a lot easier in a place. I mean, Fukuoka is not a tiny city, but it's a lot smaller than Tokyo. So it's a lot easier to get around physically. It's a lot easier to meet people face to face. In Tokyo, from my experience, I haven't lived there, but I go there a lot. It's more of a pockets situation. Like there's this event over here, and then there's this group of entrepreneurs over there, and the Tokyo American Club do their thing over here. In Fukuoka, number one, we don't have that many entities and people, but secondly, everything is a lot more focused into the center, and the rest of it is kind of leisure time. So yes, we get to meet each other on a fairly regular basis. It's not a small city though. It's 1.7 million, I guess, to our American listeners, maybe something like Vegas.
yeah, it's actually really large, but I always say like it's in
It
Japan.
feels small, right?
It feels, somehow it feels small, but and people in Japan, they always say it's compact, like compacto,
Yes.
like it's very easy to get around. If you just moved it to Japan for the first time, it was my first Japanese experience. It was amazing because it was large enough, but small enough so I could find friends and people I wanted to communicate with. So, I love that, how you talk about it still very fondly. But yeah, what was your biggest like cultural surprise actually starting a business in Japan? Was there anything that really surprised you or that's very different?
Let me think back. I mean, a bunch of stuff that I'm now used to, not used to in a good way, but it's just the way it is, I guess. It's the zero catering, not, I shouldn't say zero, but very, very low level of catering to any language but Japanese. And I don't think it's just a Fukuoka thing, but it's definitely not felt as strongly in Tokyo and Osaka, for example. I know it was just weird for me, born and bred in Israel. Then I moved to Australia for about 10 years, and then I moved here. So this was the first time I encountered a country that doesn't really try to cater to anyone who doesn't speak Japanese. I mean, you go to the local ward office where if you're living here, you're supposed to get all the basic services as a resident. And even in the biggest office in the city, which is Tenjin Chuoku, there'd be a single English speaker that comes in on certain days and certain times. And if he's not there, there's just nothing that can be done about it. And the forms would never have, not never, but very rarely would most of the forms have a English version or a Chinese version or any other language version. It's like, especially in the context of the startup conversation that we just had, Japan is on the surface level doing its best to let people move here and open business here and tries to position itself as a startup hub, but it definitely doesn't feel like that boots on the ground. And now we might get into that later, but now even on a policy level, it's intentionally making it harder for people to move here and set up businesses here. So one of the first things I've learned as I started doing business here is that whatever venture I'm going for, to make things smoother, I will always have a Japanese partner, a Japanese face to the company, or at least a very senior executive in the company, who will be the Japanese facing side. Unless I'm doing something that's, where me being a foreigner plays into it, like if I was to open an English school or a restaurant serving some kind of foreign cuisine, then maybe, yes, it would be an advantage of being a foreigner. But in most aspects of business life here, it's usually a disadvantage.
Absolutely. I think I've met your co-founder. Am I correct? The woman that we, is that
which
a lady?
One? Ikako is my wife and co-founder in NTI, in the real estate company, and Kyoka-san is my co-founder and partner in Nippon Bridge. I think maybe that's the one you met.
Kyoko-san is the one I met. And she speaks like fluently English as well. But I never knew that that's something you do on purpose as well. That's very smart, because I agree that Japan is still very, very, I guess they trust much more each other, which it makes sense, with the specific cultural...
I love how you avoid saying racist. Okay.
No, oh my God, I actually didn't think that even. What? Stop. Don't put things into my mouth.
I always dance around it too, and it's fear, and it's fear, and it's a fear of making mistakes and fear of misunderstandings, but really all racism is based in fear. The fact that it's not in your face here doesn't make it that different, in my opinion.
Interesting. Okay, interesting. Yeah, I guess you could say that. I wanted to say, I think they do really still feel like this alienation from people. Even like for me, I do speak fluently Japanese, and I still feel sometimes this alienation or this just not ease. It's like sometimes when they first meet me, they have this panic on their face of like, oh my God, do I have to speak English now? And I'm just, and even when then they realize they don't have to speak English with me, it's still kind of unsettling sometimes for some people. Yeah. I think though in Tokyo, it's the least, like I always say in Tokyo, they don't care anymore. Like it is different than in Fukuoka, but that's also one of the reasons, by the way, why I don't live outside of Tokyo, because it is for me hard to have like a normal life in Japan if I'm not in Tokyo, because I feel like it's always a topic. Like every time I meet someone new, I have to tell them why I speak Japanese and what this means. And then we can it's just tiring after a while. So I feel like in Tokyo, it's less of a conversation, but it still is a conversation. I mean, yes. Okay. Yeah. I do see what you're saying.
There's the brighter side of that too. I mean, I personally don't feel special in Tokyo or Kyoto, right? There's just so many of us there. And here, if I walk into a bar, unless it's a foreigner bar, but if I walk into a bar or a shop or any place where I haven't been before, there is that like, ooh, like a foreigner just walked in. Let's speak English. There's a bit of a niceness to it. And there's the infamous gaijin pass, where we're not expected to exactly live up to all the norms that a Japanese person does. But those are smaller bonuses compared to the hardships of being a foreigner in Japan, I feel. And then you and I are both white, or at least white appearing. Black people have it even harder, right?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I'm actually Middle Eastern. I mean, I am Turkish, or I would say I'm actually not actually Caucasian, but yes, I am perceived that way. And
Same. Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah, so they don't, yeah, they do, I think, treat me differently than like maybe like someone who's African or Black, or someone who is maybe like Filipino. I don't know how that experience is, I just know my experience. but yeah, it is still such a big topic. So yeah, thank you for bringing that up. I wanted to ask you as well, like, what is the difference? Like, I mean, you're from Israel, so I don't know if you have ever done real estate or real estate related things outside of Japan. But in case you have, or with all of your experience and research and the things that you have seen in your profession, what is the difference of, like, what is something specific about the Japanese real estate market?
Wow, there's a lot, but I guess maybe one of the biggest, I don't know if it's specifically real estate related, but it certainly comes up in real estate, is if I go to anywhere else in the world and I want to purchase real estate, whether it's a holiday home or investment property or whatever the case may be, I will find droves of people who want to work with me and take my money, right? There'll be so many agents and sellers and property managers and lawyers, whoever it is that I'm looking for. There'll be a lot of them. They'll all be speaking, English to some degree. They'll all want to work with me. And I'll need to sift through them and try to find the ones that are reliable and the ones that I want to work with, right? Here, it's exactly the other way around. Everyone is kind of reliable, at least professional enough to be by the book and do everything legally and not cause any major issues. And real estate is not different here. It is in other countries, but not here. But then you'll have to sift through them to find the ones who will actually be willing to work with you, right? Being a foreigner, especially a non-resident foreigner, which is a large part of our clients. So I guess one of the biggest differences here is that real estate around the world has this image of, even if it's not chunky, it's a lot of people who want to do a lot of deals all the time. And here there's a lot of convincing involved. The amount of times sellers will refuse buyers for various reasons, the percentage, the frequency of that is a lot higher here than in other countries.
Wow. And why do you think that is?
Same story. Foreigners are complicated, difficult. A lot of the agents and other professionals have never worked with them before. They don't know what documentation they can request to replace the documentation that a Japanese resident would normally have. They're concerned about stuff being lost in translation and then coming back to bite them down the track after settlement, complaints, just looking for the path of least resistance, and we're not it, being foreigners.
I see. Yeah. So do you feel like even though now you do have like a Japanese partner with you, it still is there's still a hurdle there?
Much less than if I wouldn't have one, and much less than when we started, because we've kind of perfected our pitch over the years. So Chikako, my very talented partner, when she approaches as a real estate agent for the first time, she already knows exactly what to say to try to alleviate all of those concerns before they even arise, right? So don't worry, you'll never need to speak to the scary foreigners. Don't worry, the funds will all come from Japanese bank accounts. Don't worry, we have a lawyer who's done this 100 times before. So I guess we're at 80-90% who agree to go ahead with us when we contact the agents. But then we still run across some sellers who just absolutely refuse to sell to a non-Japanese person for whatever reasons, because they've had a bad experience, because they're ultra-patriotic, because they're concerned about what might go wrong down the track. So it's a much lower percentage than it could be if I was trying to do it on my own, and it's a lot lower than it was when we started, but it's still there, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of now going back to this racism thing that we talked about, but I don't know, obviously, the behind what's all of that, or like I've never I've never been someone who is in real estate. I have just been someone who rents a place in Japan. So from my experience, as well, it's always like, it's like, I would say, I don't know the numbers, okay? But when you search for a place to live in Japan, and even in Tokyo now, my experience, there are many, many places and owners, sometimes it's the real estate agencies that specifically say no foreigners. Some of them say no foreigners, but what they mean by that is specifically no Chinese people, for example. So it is very, very...
All of which is, by the way, illegal in Japan too. It's just that nobody enforces that.
You mean it's illegal or legal?
It's illegal for them to say no foreigners. The anti-discrimination laws do exist in Japan. It's just that nobody cares.
I have never even thought about that, honestly. That is very interesting to know, because basically I had this thing, right? I had this experience where I was there with my partner who is Japanese, right? So we're sitting there together and we're looking for a place. And the agency was like, okay, let me just call them and ask if it's okay that you're a foreigner. And I was like, okay. So I'm sitting there. She's calling the person in charge, and the person, she says, but it's the person who wants to rent is a foreigner. And the person on the phone is like saying something that I don't hear. And then she's like, oh, no Chinese and no Indian. She's from Germany.
Yeah.
And then it was like, okay. And so then, so then I was able to view the house. Okay. So I guess, this is the racism that we talked about earlier. And I think it really is, it's sad, and it's also, it's still going on, and I sometimes understand when it's about language, right? They're like, oh, we don't care that you're a foreigner, but you have to speak Japanese. Like, that still makes sense to me because they don't want to go out of their way.
I wouldn't accept a tenant who I cannot communicate with. That's fair enough. And renting is a lot, also to be fair to them, renting is a lot more involved for the agents than purchase, because once you purchase, they're gone, you're gone with the house, and that's it. They never need to talk to you again unless something happened, But with a rental lease, they have to be in touch with you throughout the rental period, and they need to communicate and explain things and receive various claims from you. So their life is more complicated with rentals. And if there's no language skills there, then that part I do understand, but that can be A, phrased differently, and B, like you mentioned, a lot of them are just anti-foreigner regardless of language.
Yeah. I mean, and then, as I said, like that one I would still understand, but then it's like, no, you're okay because you're from Germany. You have a German passport, but like Indian people are not okay. And like, if you ask them why, like, it's like, oh, like, we don't want any strong smells in the house. Like, it can be very racist. Like, yes, from what I have.
I gotta say, from a landlord perspective, we've got both tenants. Obviously, we've got foreigners, non-foreigners, various Southeast Asians, Indians, what have you. Yes, they each come with their own bag of unique problems, but Japanese tenants are not lacking in that department, especially the elderly ones, especially the men.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I see. Yeah. I mean, it always depends on the person, obviously, but it's not easy. It's not easy. And anyways, it's not, because sometimes you have to prove that you have income in Japan, but what if you just moved here, or many different hurdles that you can go through here as a foreigner. It's not easy. So yeah, for anyone who's listening who wants to move to Japan, be prepared for that kind of thing. I already knew that, so for me it wasn't a shock. I used to live in Japan multiple times, so for me it wasn't a shock, but be prepared, guys. And I guess I have another question here that's a bit more specific. Let's see what you think about this. But basically, there's a lot of the population in Japan is not growing, okay? Like, it's going down. And there's a lot of Akiya everywhere. I mean, like, just empty houses where the owner has died. Maybe maybe they didn't have children. Maybe the children said, no, I don't want this because of taxes or whatever, for whatever reason. So we have a lot of places now in Japan. And I think this is very common right now on social media, that foreigners are like, hey guys, you can just very cheap, like a Akiya, like open empty house in Japan. You can just buy it and refurbish it. What do you think about this? Is that real? Is that really as cheap as people make it out to be? And
it's real in a sense, I guess. It's real if you know what you're getting into. So the cheaper the purchase price, the more you'll have to put into that refurbishment, right? Obviously, it's cheap because it's very, very old. It's cheap because it's very, very rural. And if it's very old and very rural, then bringing renovation companies over and renovating the place is going to be more expensive the older and more rural it is, right? So yes, you can buy, for example, a condo unit in a ski resort where the owners are still paying $200-300 a month for resort fees. They don't want to pay it anymore. They want to get rid of it practically for free. So that's real. You can buy an old dilapidated house in the countryside for a few thousands or a few tens of thousands of dollars, but it really depends on how hands-on you're planning to be and or what sort of budget you're allocating to bring that place up to livable condition, right? So For example, some of them are not even connected to sewage. You'll have to either install a septic tank or connect to city sewage if it's available in that area. If it's very rural, then there is no sewage in that area. And then septic tank might be your only option, because if you leave it not on sewage and not on a septic tank, it's basically a cesspool under the house that stinks to high heaven. So you definitely want to replace that as soon as you can. That's going to be a minimum, I don't know, $8,000, $9,000, $10,000 for a septic tank, or a few $1,000 if you're connecting to city sewage in some cases. If the property is too old, they're not really built to last in Japan, so not very durable materials, very light wood, which deteriorates over time, especially with Japan having as many typhoons and earthquakes, big and small, as it does. When you run a structural inspection, you might find that, yes, the house costs $10,000, but you'll need to pay another $80,000 to fix the tilting and the land sediment issues around the foundation and termite tracks. The roof might need to be replaced for $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, whatever the case may be. So yes, the purchase price is very low. It is possible to buy a very, very cheap property, but you really need to think carefully about what and how you're going to be doing with it once that purchase is done.
My goodness. Yeah. I mean, that's what I kind of suspected. But yeah, as you said, like the houses here, they are just also not made like, I don't know where my viewers mostly are from, but let's say if you guys are used to houses made out of concrete or stone, or, like in Europe, we have these very hundreds of years old, like beautiful, like houses that just stand time, but like in Japan, a lot of stuff, as you said, a lot of houses are made out of wood, and so it is deteriorating differently. Yeah, it's an issue here also, as you said, termites, I think, or like even cockroaches country, here.
Oh, cockroaches don't eat through the foundations and the walls, though. Termites do.
Yeah, no, but I'm just saying cockroaches as well. They're just they just are your housemates sometimes here.
Yes, and the mukade and the mosquitoes and a bunch of stuff. But I don't mean to knock down the whole Akiya boom thing. It's a real thing, and there are people doing amazing things with it if they're prepared for it and they know how to do it. Like we have, I'm not sure when you're going to publish this, but we have a real estate summit twice a year in Tokyo, and a lot of the speakers, they're kind of, well known probably to the people who like these Akiya, like Shumatsuo Post, Anton Warman. These are people that specifically target and buy and renovate these houses and make either a good profit reselling them, or a good profit, renting them out long term, or an even better profit renting them out Airbnb. But they know what they're getting into. They know what the price is, or either the labor price or the actual budget that they'll have to put into it to bring it up to livable condition. And if you know what you're doing, it can be a great thing. But it's definitely very hands-on. It's not like, for example, most of our customers are more of the Excel sheet investor types, right? So they prefer to buy a small building or a couple of condo units, or a house if it's relatively new and doesn't need too much maintenance, and preferably buy it with a tenant already in there, or if not, put a tenant in there as soon as they can. And then they need to make decisions once every 2-3 years when a tenant moves out, or every 4 or 5 years, whatever the case may be. And they're hands off. The Akiyas are nothing like that. You will be involved every step of the way.
Yes, it sounds like a very hands-on project. So interesting, because actually down, where I live, we have like a house close to, well, multiple actually Akiyas close to us, and I'm in the middle of Tokyo. And you can just tell nobody's looking after these houses. There's like the plants and the trees and the bamboos are growing and growing, and it's just, you can tell, like, you can kind of see through the window. I sound like a stalker here. I'm not, guys, don't worry. But you can like kind of see through the window and like see it's like all ripped up and kind of like just left, and you never see people there. There's one in
those gardens, by the way, the gardens in the backyards are another thing that people are often not aware of. Is they see this beautiful Japanese garden. Oh my God, I want this house. But they're only planning to be here 2-3 months a year. It's a holiday home. You can't leave that yard overrun the rest of the year. You have to pay a good few $100s every month for somebody to come and take care of it, because otherwise it becomes, well, one, a public nuisance and a hazard, because, the grass goes long, there could be vermin in there, and you get bushes and trees overhanging public roads or neighboring properties. You will get in trouble, first with the neighbors, then with the local municipality as well. And that's another expense or consideration that people need to be aware of.
Wow, yeah, I'm one of those people. You just called me out personally. I'm just like, the garden is so beautiful. It's a beautiful bamboo garden, But then
No,
you
but you're
just,
here. You could be maintaining it yourself every week, right?
yeah, I'm here. I'm here. No, that's so interesting. Because I'm thinking specifically about one house as well. Not the bamboo one that I just talked about, another one that's also very close to where I live. And it's crazy. It has like a garage, but it's like glass, like somehow you can see through. I don't know how that is, but there's a car inside. But you can almost not see the car because around and on top of the car are thousands of random stuff, just stuff. Like there was some hoarder who lived there, but then left probably. But it's a beautiful house. It's a very modern kind of beautiful house, but I think there's nobody living there and it's completely just full of stuff. And that's something like we walk by that house and we're always like, this is so sad. Like if I could just open up and just sell that stuff, because a lot of it looks even like it's worth something. Like you could sell the stuff, but in case people don't know, in Japan, actually throwing away stuff is very expensive, you know? Like if you want someone to take out your even if it's something small, like something that you cannot put in the normal rubbish, like let's say like a TV that you don't want to get rid of, or anything like that, or a refrigerator, anything. It's quite expensive actually to get that stuff taken in Japan. So I wonder if that's another reason why people just hoard and like let stuff just be there. I don't know, but
That's like the fear of foreigners. That's a very layered question. Why they hoard? I don't know, but yes, Japanese, especially elderly ones, tend to be hoarders. You enter some of these houses, whether they're abandoned or even if you're just visiting someone's family member, and often you just can't move. You go around the house like that to get to the kitchen or whatever, right?
It's so funny. Like, I don't want to be insensitive, but it's also an experience that I have seen. And I always say in Turkey, the house inside your own house, it's immaculate. You can lick the floor. People are so clean, but outside they don't care. But in Japan, it's the opposite.
Yeah.
In Japan, outside is so important. Oh my God, don't put, rubbish on the, oh my God, no. You have to be very clean outside, respect the community. But inside, it's a bit like, it can be chaotic from my experience of what I've seen.
Yes, very enough so.
Of course, it's not everyone, I'm just saying, but from my own experience, this is something that I found very interesting. But to me, it speaks about the culture so much. Yeah. Basically, I mean, if someone is watching and they're thinking, I want to invest into real estate in Japan, I want to buy a place, I want to, buy a place basically in Japan. Do you have any tip, anything where you're like, be careful that someone has to be cautious about? Or if it's, let's say it's just a foreigner who doesn't speak Japanese but is interested in the market, what would you tell them?
Well, interested in the market comes in all shapes and forms. So my advice would be different to somebody who's looking for a financial investment versus somebody who's looking to move to Japan versus somebody who's looking for a holiday home versus a family versus a couple versus urban folks, rural folks. I would have a lot of advice, but they'd be separate for each of those profiles.
Okay, so let's say it's someone who wants to invest more so, not really live, but is looking for investment in Japan. What would you say there?
Well, the first thing I would say is run your own numbers and your own spreadsheets. The yield that is quoted on Japanese property listing websites is nothing. They call it net yield, but it's nothing near net yield. It doesn't include property purchase costs, doesn't include property management costs. If they're investing in a building or a condo unit, then depending on what materials that structure is made of, I would advise to not buy past a certain age. Because as the structures get older, especially for the wooden structures, they will come with escalating maintenance expenses. So you might think running the numbers that you yield is 7-8%. In reality, it's going to be closer to 3-4% if the property is too old. You want to run your due diligence. If it's a condo unit, you want to run your due diligence on how the building is being managed, what the renovation history looks like. Do they have enough reserve funds for the next big renovation? When should that be coming up approximately? Have they saved enough? Do they have loans outstanding, the owner union? If you're buying a house, I would advise to conduct a structural inspection, definitely if it's older than 20 or 30 years old. And based on the results of that structural inspection, I would then probably, green light or advise to back out of the deal because something might cost way beyond what we're assuming based on the inspection report. So really depends. I would advise to not try to contact Japanese listing agents directly because they do freak out when they see an email from a foreigner, even if you write it in perfect Japanese. Just the fact that your name is a foreign name will often cause them to just enter freeze mode and not reply to your emails anymore. Work with a bilingual buyer side representative, whether it's a realtor or an advisor, someone like ourselves, to handle those contacts on your behalf. Because again, just we know how to present your case in a way that will alleviate some of the concerns that these people will have. And make sure that you've got your management mapped out, because if you're not living in Japan, you can't open a bank account here. You don't have residency certificates. Signing up for utility contracts, signing up for property management services, that's all going to be something that you'll need to map out before you pull the trigger. Otherwise, you'll end up with a title deed in your hand, but not much in the way of being able to manage it.
Wow, that is advice, guys,
and
for
and
anyone.
on. We can go on for hours. We can talk about floors, elevators, what happens to buildings at a certain age, there's endless advice.
Yes, it seems it's so intricate. Obviously, we cannot go into everything, but something you mentioned there is something that I noticed as well from I have, again, no background here in real estate, but what I always notice is that we talked a bit about the structure and how houses here break down differently because, how they are built. But just as a rough estimate, what would you say is like, how long does a house have to be standing for you to be like a bit like, we should check here? You know what I mean? Like, what would you say? Like, let's say
if it's a wooden structure, we would normally advise on a structural inspection if it's 30 years and younger. 25 to 30 being kind of borderline, I would guess. Like if I know that there was a big earthquake in the area 5-10 years ago, I might conduct a structural inspection anyway, just to see, if it's had any effect on the structure itself. If it's a condo unit or a condo building and it's beyond 40 years of age, those are made of concrete, so they do last longer. But if it's past 30, I would advise to consider reselling it as it approaches 40, because that's when, again, renovations become more frequent, building fees go up, and then investors who might want to buy it from you in the future will expect a lower price. So for an investment in a concrete structure, I would advise to purchase as close as possible to 30 years and younger. If it's a wooden structure, as close as possible to 20 years and younger. Obviously, different people have different budgets. You're not going to be able to buy that in central Tokyo for less than $1 million, but I would maybe compromise a little bit on location, distance to station rather than the age of the structure, because that can turn into very significant expenses.
Interesting. We also compromised on that, actually, just for renting even, because obviously in Japan, the biggest thing here, as well, one of the biggest things if you're looking for a property to rent or buy, is how close is it to the station, because people use the public transportation mostly, especially in Tokyo. And so we were like 5 minutes or less. It has to be 5 minutes or less. We don't want to walk so much every day. But then, it's difficult. A lot of those close to the station are, obviously the places are quite expensive because they are so close to each station, and then they're often
smaller for the same price, right?
Exactly, smaller and older and in worse condition and still more expensive. And so we found a place that's actually around 10 minutes, but we actually enjoy it now. It's like a little walk now, before you go to work. So it isn't that bad. So another question I had for you is also, regarding your other business, for people who want to basically relocate to Japan. What are you, I know it probably depends on the people that you are, that you're advising, but how would you say has, Japan changed as well over the years? Like when you talk to people who want to, relocate here, and you look at how Japan has changed over the years. I mean, you lived here for so many years, much more than me. What would you tell them, and what are you normally telling them?
Actually, as we speak, as we're recording this, there's a major change coming in. So a lot of the people who wanted to relocate to Japan by virtue of setting up a business here are not going to be able to do that anymore, because the immigration department is going to, mid-October, in about a month's time, are going to make it a lot harder, stricter. You need to show much, much more capital than you used to. So I would say, I guess it went in a bit of a bell curve. When I moved here, it was rare, at least in Fukuoka, where I'm living. Obviously, Tokyo again is different, but it was quite rare to see foreigners on the street. It was quite rare to see foreign-owned businesses. There were a handful in town, and everybody knew them, kind of thing. And then over just over a decade now, 12, 13 years that I've lived here, we've seen more and more and more people coming here. Personally, we find that it enriched the city and the culture and the business options that we have. So we loved it. But it seems like both with the election results and now with the new immigration policy, it seems like Japan wants to take it back the other way again. So if you ask me the same question in 5-6 years' time, I think we'll have a different answer. But I've been seeing and enjoying the openness that Japan was going through. Like it definitely changed in the last 10-15 years to become more open and welcoming to foreigners, but looks like it's going the other way now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly which policy you're talking about, because I saw was it the business manager visa? Some visa where you have to show that you have a business, and I think the threshold for getting that visa was much lower, and now it's much higher. You have to basically prove to have a annual profit. Is it annual profit?
Capital or annual income of 30 million yen to get or renew the visa, yeah? And you have to hire at least one full-time Japanese employee. Which that part actually makes sense to me for most businesses. Otherwise, again, like we spoke about earlier, it's harder to do business here and to serve customers who are Japanese if you don't have a Japanese face for the company. But the capital requirement is ridiculous. I mean, there are people. I understand where the policy is coming from, because there must be quite a few shonky operators who just pretend to have a business and just got a visa that way. But that's definitely throwing out the baby with the bathwater in this case, because there are a lot of people who have made their lives here and are huge contributions to the economy. They've set up small businesses, they're serving their communities, they're paying their taxes. So to suddenly tell all of these people that they're not going to be able to renew their visa and they have to leave after they've, relocated their entire lives here is, for me, unthinkable. I'd say illegal, but in Japan, illegal is a very vague term. The laws that are enforced are the laws that the flavor of the day government wants to enforce.
I mean, honestly, yes. And I know I'm not a business owner here, but I know someone who actually this change directly affected already and has to leave now. Yes, and it's so sad as well. As you say, like I understand, I fully understand, there's people who pretend to have a business just to be here. That's obviously illegal or should be punished. And I understand that, from a policy point of view. But I feel like the threshold already, like it became a bit too high. And then all of, the jump was quite intense. And then,
I think, honestly,
as you said,
it's just a lazy policy, because the real way to handle these cases is to dig into these businesses and these visa applicants and see what it is that they're actually doing. And I don't think the immigration department wants to do that. It's a lot easier to say, okay, well, if you're not rich, don't come here.
Yes, and that's kind of like, I don't know, that's so sad, because as you say, like these like small businesses are mostly affected by this, right? Am I correct? Like from my
Yes,
understanding?
Yeah.
And that's so sad, because it makes Japan a less diverse and interesting place. And yeah.
But I mean, the last election results were kind of headed this way too, right? I mean, that kind of came at about the same time. It's like, okay, though suddenly we see candidates being elected with policies that are, deliberately anti-foreigner for whatever reasons. Let's make sure foreigners don't own as much property here. Let's make sure foreigners are not able to stay here a long time without, further restrictions. It's just, the pendulum swings, but the thing is, with Japan being the poster child of decreasing population and an elderly society, when you get more elderly conservative people, the laws will get worse in that regard, not better, right? So I think, unfortunately, this is the canary in the coal mine kind of thing. I think we're going to see more of that in coming years. I hope not, but I think we might.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, I don't want to get too political here because I don't have enough knowledge to talk about that. But just from the election posters, you can see these like local elections as well. And they have posters with the specific politician who's running. And the stuff, the sentences I've read on there in regards to foreigners, right? I mean, some of these people are literally anti-foreign. I mean, they're just very open about it. And the sentence that they wrote there, some of them, I mean, I was just shocked, because also very sad, because I am a foreigner, obviously, and I love Japan. For me, it's the most beautiful country to live in. I have been to so many different places. As an ex-cabin crew, I have literally been to most places, and it's just the land of my dreams. I mean, I always want to be here. And yeah, it's sad to see. I don't know. I found that it literally hurt me. Like, I don't want to be. I'm not one of those who I'm like, nothing against it. It does make me angry. It just makes me more sad, because I'm like, oh, so I'm not welcome here. But like, I want to be welcome here.
I'm with
right?
you completely. I'm with you completely.
Yeah, and you have children here as well, right?
Yes, one child, a son, about 16 now.
And he is half Japanese, right?
He is, but he grew up here since he was 3 and a bit. So inside the house, we're all of us not a very quiet Japanese family. I mean, Chikako is Japanese as well, but she doesn't have the hone tatemae thing. Like, what you see is what you get. She immediately spits it out. And I'm the same, and I guess so is he. So he grew up within the house, definitely not Japanese, but once he steps out of the house, he's as Japanese as they get. He's the way he talks, the way I embarrass him if I'm too loud outside, the way he treats other kids in school, or his sensei in school, or whatever. He's very extremely Japanese. He doesn't his face doesn't look it, but he's very Japanese.
Interesting. And you think that comes from if both parents are not really that way? Do you think that comes from school education?
I would say so, yeah. The environment is a very strong effect. I also see that he's a lot more, I guess, conservative in his life choices. It's a bit weird to say that about a 16-year-old, but he's definitely not Chikako and myself, in the sense that he's a bit concerned about studying overseas. Maybe my English is not good enough. His English is it's not at high school level overseas, but it's definitely a lot higher than everybody else in his school, or in his class at least. I don't know if I can travel to that place without somebody. His thinking is Japanese. I don't even know how to put it.
No,
and it's
absolutely
definitely not coming
understand.
from us. I can promise you that much.
Yeah, no, that is so interesting, because the half, they call it hafu in Japan, like people who are half Japanese and half something else, that I have met when I studied here or through living here. All of them are intensely Japanese. I mean, you would say, just by not, if you would disregard the looks, all of them. And I think it does come from that school education as well. And Japan's school education is still very, very, I think it's changing a little bit, but it's still very, very traditional and very conservative. And more than, for example,
that nail that sticks out thing is a real thing. And they, by being nails that stick out by definition of their face, I guess they learn to adapt even more, right?
Yeah, and I kind of relate to that in a bit, because I grew up as a Turkish immigrant girl in Germany, and I was always asking my parents, why am I not blonde? Why don't I have blue eyes? Like, I want to be German. Like, I had that as a child. I would literally say, I want to be German. I just want to become them. I want to be part of them. And I never was, and I never will be, and I still will not be, with my perfect German and having lived there and studied there and being born in that country. I will never be German. And so at one point, once I went through that identity crisis as a teenager, and I understood that, the fact that I am not German, the fact that I'm not a normal German, right? That made me special. I just could fully own that. And so I think what you say there with wanting to belong, I really do understand that, especially when you're very young, 16. I mean, you're still a child, you're a teenager. You kind of are in any 16-year-old is in an identity crisis, whether they are
right. Yeah.
yeah, like you have to belong in the group, and so I guess that makes sense. I have to say though, my partner as well, he's Japanese, but he's very, very honest. I mean, he knows how to behave as well. Honne tatemae, for everyone who doesn't know what that means, it means basically the face you show to the society and the real face, who you really are. And so in Japan, that's very common. It's a very common thing to present a different self to society. And my partner, even though he's very Japanese and he can do that, when it comes to even our relationship, he's intensely honest and he's much more expressive than I am even. so yeah, like I sometimes learn that through him, and it's kind of funny because he's Japanese. But I guess it's similar with your wife as well.
Yes. Yeah, we picked non-typical Japanese ones, I think.
Yeah, but because even in Japan it's not that uncommon. I don't know if that's also your experience or if you know anything about this, but in Japan it's not uncommon in your own private, personal, intimate relationships that people still are not honest with you when it comes to many things. And
yeah, there's no. I spoke to a therapist once who was working here for many, many years. He's gone now. But he said that the Japanese couples that come to him, he used to do couple therapy as well, and also to individuals who have problems with their relationships. And he said there's this assumption, and I see it in business situations too, there's this assumption between two Japanese people, and obviously more so if you're together, if you've been together for a number of years, that the unspoken doesn't need to. Everybody understands each other. Like read the air. It's a thing in Japanese language and culture, right? Everybody needs to read the air, and just foreigners just don't have the skills to do that. But they don't really know each other. Like one member of the couple is assuming that the other one absolutely loves or absolutely hates or absolutely minds or doesn't mind something. The other one thinks the same thing about them. When you talk to them at the same room, it's actually completely wrong. And I see that in business communications as well. And the language doesn't help either. You know how the Japanese language, to anyone who doesn't speak it, doesn't really have object subject in every sentence. Like everything is contextual. So it's assumed that you know exactly who or what I'm referring to when I say a certain sentence. So I've had quite a few cases where the Japanese language summary between Chikako, my partner, and some real estate agent, for example, was, so the documents will be provided 2 days before settlement. She's assuming he's providing them. He's assuming she's providing them. Nobody actually said the word I or you. And then the day comes and there's no document. Oh, it's you. Oh, it's me. So they think.
Oh my God. What? Yeah, what you just said is my everyday experience. And I'm just, sometimes I feel like I'm the idiot because I'm like, guys, I think I can read the air, but can I just point out just in case?
That's why we always do that. Boku? Are we talking about me?
Yeah, because it's like, guys, I often call that out in any situation, private and professional, and anyway, everyday life. I'm like, is this really what you guys mean? Are we talking about this right now? And then I'm realizing sometimes in my profession as well, like as I do different things professionally, but for example, as an interpreter, sometimes, right? It's like both parties assume something and they completely have something wrong. Or then I sit somewhere and I feel like, again, in my professional and private life, even if it's two Japanese people and they're talking to each other, both, as you just said, they just assume something. Both are wrong. Both are completely wrong. And then they realize that weeks after. And so then everything gets delayed. Everything gets, it's like, it almost, but this makes me feel a bit better because I'm like, okay, it's not me. It's not me not understanding.
No.
It's the way that Japanese as a language is structured and the culture is. And so what happens is, I think this is also the reason why businesses in Japan also really struggle with speed.
Efficiency, is a problem here, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes,
the service is spectacular, but efficiency leaves something to be desired. Yeah.
Yeah, this is so funny what you just said, the anecdote there. That is everybody's experience. I mean, Yeah, and it's good to know that it's not necessarily the foreigner feeling a bit weird sometimes, but it's also that it happens
Well, I
between
think most
Japanese
Japanese
people
are
as
not
well.
aware of it, though. If somebody doesn't actually call it out, like in those cases you described, or, extreme case in the case of therapy, if somebody doesn't actually point out that, hey, do you really understand what he just said or what she just said? I think a lot of them go through their lives without actually recognizing that it's a thing. For us, it's kind of obvious because, in English, I'm sure in other languages as well, in English, it's kind of like the onus is on the speaker to make sure that we are understood, which is why we're so verbal and sometimes in your face. Whereas here, the onus is on the listener to understand what the speaker meant. And also, and this is something I saw when I was attending open days in my son's school, elementary school, this whole thing of don't ask questions because that shows that you're stupid kind of thing, or just agree with everybody around you to avoid friction. That's not helping either.
No, it's not. It's not helping. And what you just said there is if they not realize it, I think sometimes they don't realize it, and I think sometimes they don't care. So I ask a lot of questions. I mean, this is not just me being a foreigner. I'm just genuinely a curious person. That's literally why I have this podcast. But I ask a lot of questions. So what I realize often asking questions to Japanese people is like, I think that person thinks that. I don't know. Maybe they think this. But I think they assume this. Maybe. And I think they're just okay with not knowing. And I'm always like, I want to know. Why are you okay not knowing? Can we ask? And then it turns out they're thinking something completely different. And everybody just assumed, as you said, it's the same thing. But I think sometimes they're just comfortable not knowing, honestly. And
Yes, I think so. And I mean, to be fair, conflict here is handled better than I see in other countries. So when those things do happen, it's usually not going to be a complete disaster. Like the disasters that I see are not related to misunderstandings. They happen for other reasons. But I think if you're a Japanese person and you're dealing with another Japanese person, so again, you're assuming things will be generally smooth. And if something isn't, then we'll find a way around it amicably, right? It's not going to be an explosion. It's not going to be a disaster. So maybe it's not such a big deal for them, at least.
yeah, I see. Maybe the consequence is just not that crazy, and that's why it is okay to make mistakes. I mean, often in business practice, the effort is much more valued in Japan than the outcome. And that's a complete mindset switch for a lot of foreigners. It's like, it's all outcome in Western countries.
And mistakes
Nobody
that are
cares.
related to misunderstandings are kind of to be expected. It's not like mistakes because that person didn't do something right. That's a whole different thing. And when a Japanese person makes a mistake like that, often they'll just disappear off the face of the earth and never return an email or a phone call anymore out of the sheer embarrassment of doing that. So it's not that. It's misunderstandings that arise from the frictions between a lot of people living together in close proximity. But I mean, that's why we're comfortable on the street in Japan as well. Like everybody considers everyone around them kind of thing, right? And that's a wonderful thing.
Yes. Yes, it all comes with the downsides and the upsides. Oh my God. Thank you so much, Ziv. We already talked almost an hour. I mean, I'm seeing
I haven't even noticed that.
It was so fun.
You
are such an engaging person to talk to. I had so much fun today. I hope for you as well. I will tell you when this will air. But thank you so much for your insights on real estate. It was very, very meaningful to me. I love that the conversations we had. And I hope one day maybe I'll be on. I think you also have a podcast. Maybe I'll be on your podcast one day.
Your pleasure. Would love to have you.
And thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of the Kotodama Podcast. Please tune in. Every week I have a new episode out, and interesting guests. I talk about all kinds of different things here with my guests.
Like and subscribe.
Exactly. Like and subscribe. It really helps with the algorithm. And please tell me, guys, in the comments, even if you have any opinions on this. Have you ever thought about buying something, property in Japan, or investing in Japan, or relocating here, or renting here? Please let me know. And thank you so much, Ziv. And thank you guys for tuning in, and see you soon.